and ended Rosalio Gutierrez's life.
That
There
was
was stop.
And then the
an
third,
interesting rewrite of what actually happened, because they had no idea until Sadie told them about. Well, I think my ex might have something to do with it. So this was
That's
not
right.
something they thought about. It was nothing the investigators came to a conclusion of by themselves. They got, well, right when they were at the crime scene, there was Sadie saying, I think my ex had something to do with it. And from that moment in time, that was the only lead they went for. The only theory they had.
So they
No.
never investigated anybody else.
Never investigated anybody else.
Do you want me to go further with this one?
Yeah, sure. I want to hear about the bloody crime scene and then show
Thought I had
the
it
actual
queued.
crime scene.
third, of course, area of investigation was where is the body of Rosalio Gutierrez. And I'm not going to belabor that in this opening. You'll hear about very substantial efforts in many jurisdictions involving many agencies to look for the body of Rosalio Gutierrez, which is never found.
Rose between the thorns.
So on May 19th, okay, so this is 2 days after Rosalio has last been heard from at 11:07 a.m., the Kenosha Police Department is at Rosalio's address. And they find through their investigation before too long that the last person in touch with him appears to be a woman whose last name is Macias, who received a text from him at 9:27 p.m. on the 17th, okay? And then she texted him back because she arrived at a building she thought was his. Turns out she was at the wrong building. But she thought she was in his building.
Oh, this is so unnerving. This was what caused the first mistrial. Yes, this was the retrial of Zachariah Anderson, because the prosecution failed to tell the defense, hey, we went there with this witness. And they have no recordings of this happening. They have no reports of this happening. All we have to go by is Gravely's saying, yeah, we went there with her, and then we discovered she was at the wrong address. Here's the thing, folks. She wasn't using the same GPS to get there. And we don't actually know, since we don't know what was said between them.
So what, Sadie had two phones?
Not Sadie, this witness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this witness, since the crime, have changed phones. So it was not the same GPS. We don't know if she actually was at the wrong address. She claimed in her deposition she was in front of Rosalio's address.
So they didn't do a phone extraction on her phone?
No. And so what? This is so uncanny, because when this was revealed with all of that, because there's a clear cut in between before this meeting with the prosecutor Gravely and after. The change in her testimony is so completely different
from a police interview.
From the police interview to the testimony in court.
Wow.
And she is now everybody is nervous on the stand, but some people are nervous for different reasons. I'm not a body language guy. I barely believe in it, but I have, after 30 years in labor law, I have a BS meter implanted in my spine.
Yeah.
And it went tingling, and I'm not saying she was lying, but my BS meter went off.
When she was under direct, I thought she was calm and collected, but she buckled under cross.
Now,
Yeah.
Nick, what type of attorney was the attorney? Like, was it appointed counsel, or did he hire counsel who represented his interest at trial?
He was this was an appointed counsel.
Okay, so we didn't have necessarily the strongest of legal counsel sitting next to him.
Under the circumstances, the team did as good as they could, but they
Right.
had a lot of things against them because evidence was brought in that shouldn't have. Like,
Right.
for instance, the marijuana plants in his house, completely unnecessary, had nothing to do
Irrelevant.
with the crime.
Yeah.
Well, what was the argument for relevancy on the state's behalf that the marijuana plants should come in?
Credibility,
Oh.
maybe?
Were they
Huh?
saying he was under the influence? I mean, how does that tie into?
No, I believe it's just to show that, he grows marijuana in his home. That means he's a bad guy.
Well, yeah, right. Okay. So, but it had obviously has nothing to do with
No,
anything to do with why he might
No.
have done this or
No.
anything besides
No.
just
There
the
is actually
yeah.
no
They brought-
factual evidence.
They brought it in to explain. The claim was they needed to bring it in because to show that his daughter had been in the house and seen all the things that she had seen in it.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that that part of her statement was she said he had those things in the house, and that was going to bolster her credibility to say
Yeah.
that she had been there. So then, okay, so that was how they got it in. That was the exception that they brought it in. Because I was going to say
Yeah.
you can't normally bring in things that are
And because
just for the
with
purpose
the
that
basement,
aren't related.
it was with the basement testimony, what she claimed she saw in the basement. Also things
Gotcha.
that changed from, because every interview she had with Prosecutor Gravely was unrecorded, and every
Really?
time, they had 4 or 5 unrecorded meetings with Prosecutor Gravely, with the daughter, and every time she changed the story slightly.
And what do you believe the interest was in Prosecutor Gravely's part in wanting to convict him? Do you think it's because he just felt like he's guilty, but we need to bolster this, or is there some other reason that he felt the need to pursue an innocent man if the evidence wasn't?
I believe it has to do with what happened a couple of years prior. They had a really, really public trial, the Rittenhouse trial, and they lost. The prosecution lost. Shamefully, they lost. So they were in desperate need of a high-profile case and a conviction.
Okay.
And they chose this one. That's my theory.